This video is a reply to Stone O Mountain, who left me a comment. Haven't heard from him in a while, and I appreciate him returning and making a comment here. The channel is so quiet that it's like, yeah, I'm gonna stop and talk to somebody who threw some things out there. There's a lot to what I'm doing. I don't think people can really follow along, and I get frustrated, kind of like I want to show this to people, but I realize the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. What I'm doing is I'm learning it by going after it. I'm spending time with it because I have the time. If you don't have the time and you don't spend the time with it, it's just going to be, I think you're not going to see it. You could probably see hints and glimpses of it as I'm pointing at things, and you relate it to your own life and go, okay. But it's hard to make that final transition that this right here is a mental path. Every step is mentally interactive. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Yeah, I had a recent conversation with somebody about the Tao again, somebody teaching the Tao and doing the Tao and going into the whole. It's a Western person that's, they're wonderful. They're a nice person and all that. But that first one, the Tao that can be told, is not the eternal Tao, which translates to people that they don't understand what that means. They think it means that it just is too nebulous. It's something mysterious. It's constantly changing. There's something that is there. And they're not mentally engaging with the material in the proper way. This is your guru, and you ask them what life's about, and that's what they told you. You don't walk away going, oh, I can never understand this. That's not how you manage the material. That's carrying the material. Everybody's got their version of the blind leading the blind. That doesn't mean it's bad. It means here's an inward path in your material that you don't know. And you're teaching it as if it's something that can't be understood. Meanwhile, it was written by who? Some human long ago. What did they come up with that you can't come up with? You're giving them permission to create something that is out of your hands. Stop and think about that. They're a human being trying to teach you something. How do you engage with this material? The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. What are we looking for? The eternal Tao. Then what is the eternal Tao? It can't be the one that's told. Then what is it? We're still looking for an eternal Tao. We can talk about this all day long, but it's a personal inward path. Not until you grab the material, make it yours, turn inward with it, and make it something that you can interact with mentally to change your life, to improve your life. You realize the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao is like sitting and listening to a preacher talk. Does that make you feel better? Nope. Not until you grab the material and make it your own, turn inward to your own mind and stop looking outward, does it become the true Tao. That's the true. That's the real way right there. When it's personal, when it's yours. Talking about it is fine. We can talk about all the steps and we can be 100% accurate with it. I can know exactly what I need to do. When I was a kid, I got molested. I feel this way about it. I am shame. I feel hatred. I feel anger, and I carry that with me, and I can see that that's a cycle, and I can see that as a result of that it's hurting my life. And if I can go back and understand that I'm just one cog in a bunch of people, the next link in a chain, extract myself from that, and stop feeling that way, that it ceases to be that way. I learned that this is a mentally interactive path. When somebody tells you this means it's nebulous and you can't figure it out, what you're doing is you're worshiping the religion. You're not understanding the inner path. If you understand the inner path, you will stop being a Taoist or a Christian or a Buddhist. You can live that life. There's nothing wrong with that. The pathway itself is not religious. It's personal, mental, interactive. If it's still something that is nebulous in the religion, you haven't found the inner path. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The Tao that is taken is the eternal Tao. When you make it yours is when it becomes eternal, not until then. I mean, think about it as we lead into the teaching right after the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. What we're going to hear is things like, naming is the origin of all particular things. That's a common teaching. That is me. This is about me. This is about my life. I want to know what my life is about. I'm asking the guru, and he's telling me naming is the origin of all particular things. That means whatever agreements I've made, whatever experiences I have had, however I hold them in my consciousness and my emotions, is the beginning of them. Naming is the origin of all particular things. That means creating a memory is the beginning of my life experience. Now, if I'm caught in that naming right there, I continue to see the manifestation of it. And if I'm free of it, I see the mystery of life. If you read through those, you realize these are mental processes. Go right back up to the beginning and ask yourself, if the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, then what is the eternal Tao? Then it goes right into how we come about mentally. It's telling us it's a mental path. Okay, that should make sense to people. This stuff is not something that is unapproachable. We should be able to access this. They've got something in here. They're very clever, and we're not hooked into it. We're stuck in our modern biases. All right, what I want to do now is respond to, this was a video I put up about Jonah, because I read that and go, wow, we got Jesus stuff in here. We got stuff that sounds like it comes from Genesis and the Sodom story. There's some elements in there, but then it kind of, at the end, it just has this kind of abrupt ending that something doesn't sound right. But I just threw that out there, not really focused on it very much. And I just left it kind of like, I'm not even sure what that is. I'm going to go back to Genesis. But because he engaged with me here, I'm going to say, okay, Genesis, I've done video after video. I got hours on Genesis. I'm not into it as deep as I need to be. Those are boring for people, but I need to do them. It's textual stuff I need to get my hands on. Even if other people can't follow, I've got to do that. But anyway, let's get back to Jonah here. This is a nice break from that process. So let me bring up his comment here. Okay, so he was responding to that Jonah video, and I'll put a link to it below if you're interested. Hello, Daniel. Jonah might just be an example of a failed or unbalanced journey, a desire to return to the food pots of Egypt, if you will. At the end, he basically stated that all he did was for naught because of the outcome was predetermined in his mind. It was a failure on his part to learn and grow even with his rebirth. The city is a big problem, and it got fixed using aggressive methodology. The small pebble that is Jonah did not. Okay, it goes on to, I'm going to address some of these other stuff too. The sackcloth is like the camel hair of John the Baptist. I want to do one on clothing here. I think in Leviticus it states that if you fast and go into the fields, you will surely die. So failed, unbalanced journey with an admonition to have some sort of humility. Okay, so I'm going to say right here, I think in Leviticus it states that if you fast and go into the fields, you will surely die. I'm not going to look that up. I'm just going to say it sounds reasonable to me. If you fast and go into the fields, you will surely die. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. But here is what we need to look at it as. It is not about the physical world. We know this, right? This is a spiritual, this is analogous. We're looking at something, if we were to go look at it, what is this going into, what was it going into the, whatever, wilderness, the desert? Where did Jesus go? Into the wilderness, the field, for 40 days, fasting. We're going to go here and, what was it he said? What was that there? My apologies. If you go into the fields, you will surely die. If you fast and go into the fields, you will surely die. Okay, you know what? That's a desired thing. It's a spiritual thing. If you fast, stop consuming mentally. Go into the fields. Go into a place that's devoid. What environment are you in that is not a good place? Leave where you are. Stop doing what you're doing. Get out of the habits. And surely you will die. You want to die. You want your old self to die. But you treat them all the same way. And in this case, it's always spiritual, and every term is an analogous term. You do want to die to yourself. A rebirth is what we're after. And that's like going into the desert for 40 years. They didn't fast though. What they did is they only consumed very minimal amounts and very specific foods. So, and then Jesus, 40 days in the wilderness, fasting. So we have this idea here that what this is representative of getting out of this place you were in, remove yourself from the environment, go to someplace else and focus on something new and let your old self die off. Okay, so that's how we're managing all the verses. That's not what this video is about. I just want to say that's how I manage the verses, that they get that starkly mentally interactive, that's exactly what it is. If we leave them in any religious way, we don't have them right. When it becomes very mentally interactive and has no religious trappings or wrappings left on it, that's the pathway. It's really hard to find. It's mental. No, it's not hard to find. It is inward. It's hard to understand what to do. We've got all the parts in place. We need to learn how to manage them. Anyway, okay. Sorry, I'm all over the place here, aren't I? Okay, what I want to do in this case is actually just go through and completely interpret Jonah. I just kind of went over it roughly. I'll do the first steps. I won't go every detail verse by verse necessarily, but down here at the bottom where suddenly Jonah gets angry and goes off and sits off on his own and there's that conversation, that right there I will analyze that to the nth degree. That's right there is the part that I don't get. That's the one where it looks like, I don't know what happened. Like Stono Mountain said, like something like a journey that failed or something like that. Okay, so right off the bat, well, I'll tell you, I've got Jonah up here on my computer from the King James Version, loaded into a Word file so that I can do some searching and some modifying with it. I've got this one set up where I've got every verse is separated out. Things that I want to point out in here are things like, if you look, you will see chapter 1, verse 1. Now the words of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai. I don't know how to pronounce that, saying. Verse 2, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. 3, but Jonah rose up to flee into Tarshish from the... What I want to point out here is, look how long 3 is. And it's a complete... Let's see, and he found a ship going to Tarshish, so he paid the fee thereof and went down to it. This is a very complete number 3 right here. Number 1 and 2 is a shorter sentence, but it's broken up. Why is that? There's a reason for it. There's something going on that at some point, pay attention to those things. These verses are fitting a numbering criteria. Anyway, okay, there's just weird things going on. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to take a search here through the document. And I'm going to just take a look at a couple of things. Like, I'm going to look how many times does the name Jonah appear. And I've done this before, 18 times. So that is going to be that's going to fit on the grid as a bad thing, which is interesting. Jonah if this number count is right, Jonah is a bad thing, but we're called on the adventure. So that may have something to do with the end. Typically, the called person is not going to be a bad thing. So maybe we've got to invert something here as we go along. We'll just pay attention to that. Okay, Nineveh. What I'm going to do is take a look at Nineveh. And it comes up 9 times, which is on the grid. I'm not sure what that is yet. It comes up as a number. This is one that I have to dial in better as far as my work in Genesis. 7 is a good place. 8 is where first sin happens. 10 is a good place. So what is between 8 and 10? A preparation, perhaps, something that needs to be reserved. Nineveh didn't get destroyed. Nineveh is going to end up getting healed instead. So maybe there's a part of that. Anyway, that's kind of an odd thing. People might look at that and go, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. And that's okay. This is meaningful to me. If I go to Tarshish right here, I see it comes up exactly 4 times. And I'm comfortable with seeing that number is a good thing throughout Jewish material. I'm going to say presence of the Lord. That should be like on the 7-3 grid too. Presence of the... Well, we can see right there, presence of the Lord is repeated 3 times exactly. I look at this right off the bat and I go, yep, you know what? This is an Abrahamic document. I have no doubt. This is that whoever put this in there knows what they're doing. There's something in the background that we're finding out. I mean, they know that this is right. We don't. Let's see. Okay, so what we have here is, now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, I'm going to do something very bizarre here, okay? I want you to try to hook into it in this way. What if I said something like, now the request of the... I want to stop right here and let you know or remind you, if you need to, that George Lucas wrote Star Wars on the monomyth template. Okay, this is going to sound extreme to some people. All right. It could say something like this. Now the request of the rebel alliance came to Luke, the son of the force, saying, okay, the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, it's announcing the material, of course, but what I want you to do is to understand that you are this person. If you are going to go on the adventure, you become Luke. It's a monomyth, and you're going to go sequence through stages. It's on the template. Right up here, what the only emphasis I want to make is that you are Jonah. If you read through this, you become Jonah. You become parts of this. Nineveh is who you are. Nineveh is the belief system that you have become over time. That's what the dark forces represented in Darth Vader and all that kind of stuff represents. That's the evil place that you have to go to destroy. Go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. This means that your higher awareness, that's the word of the Lord, the understanding of what to do. Okay, imagine Nineveh as the Death Star. What that represents is the bundle of bad. I should say that you're going to see a derivation in this where the Death Star never did ask for forgiveness and change like it's going to happen here. So the Death Star had to be destroyed. However, if the Death Star surrendered and said, we're going to come back over to the good side, which is actually what happens in this story, that might help us unfold it. Tells us to go address ourselves because we don't feel good. Their wickedness has come up before me. Can't manage my life anymore. But we don't want to. We're gonna run away. We go to a ship and we go down into it and go to Tarshish away from the presence of the Lord. What we're doing here is we're leaving our higher awareness. That higher awareness is where we exist, where we reside, where we are outside of our emotions. We can live life devoid of feeling the pain and the shame if we're at that point mentally, but we don't practice getting there. What we do is we practice leaving it and going into turmoil. Now, what we have right here is Jonah, myself. I did not want to see the presence of the Lord, the pureness. I left that pureness behind, that original higher awareness self. And I left that, behind. But what happens? The Lord sends a great sea. Why would the Lord do that? The Lord blesses those who bless you and curses those who curse you. So that when to see what's happening is that we've had life experiences now, and that we're in the sea. The sea is rough, which represents the idea that our life is rough. We're crashing through sea in a stormy sea, in a stormy life. The mariners, these are our inner qualities. We live in this conflict. I got to do something. I'm not going to. I can't. I'm afraid. I can't get out. I don't know what to do. I fall back in. It's too good. All of that happening. The mariners were afraid and cried out every man unto his God. Oh, I don't know what to do, and cast forth the waves that were in the ship. This is us having a frazzled life. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. This is our hero, our conscious, our self that is supposed to be in charge, who is not paying attention. We're just like, yep, I'm just going to live life and let the ocean have its way with me. So the shipmaster came to him. At this point, we're getting a calling. You sleep, arise, call. We need to awaken within ourselves to go face these things. And for some reason, they're going to cast lots. This is just a setup in the story. I don't know. Lot. 6 times. Let me make sure they're all lot. No, because some are sackcloth. Lot's only 3 times. And sackcloth is 3 times. We need to know that for later as well as we cover that sackcloth. Okay, so they're casting lots. They're what they're doing is they're looking for purification. Then 3, the inside, internally we're looking for purification. Those that say evil is upon us, we're starting to look at ourselves, and we're saying you are the person that has made all the decisions in life. You got a problem, Jonah. You're the consciousness that is now devoid of being in charge. They try to, that's kind of what emerges from here. And he said to them, I'm a Hebrew and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, which hath made the sea, the dry land. Okay, being a Hebrew, that's one thing that's going to keep him from being pure. But also a Hebrew is somebody that if you become, what does it say up here? Well, it doesn't. Anyway, okay. I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, which has made the sea and the dry land. All right, so I'll just jump over this part right here. What we have is the men were afraid of him and said to him, what shall we do to thee? He tells them, throw me into the sea and it'll be calm. So he's telling them to get rid of me so that everything will be calm. But the men at first, they tried to row to bring him to land, but they could not. The sea was rotten. So they couldn't manage it with him there. So they said, we beseech you, O Lord, please let us not perish for this man's life and not lay upon us innocent blood, for the Lord has done as it pleased thee. That has shades of Sodom in it. We beseech thee, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood. I will not destroy it for the sake of 50 righteous. I will not destroy it for the sake of 40. I'm not sure. So they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. So things are calming down, and then the Lord feared. What we got is the fish swallowed us up. Okay, so this represents jumping into the ocean. Going into the ocean represents going back into the water, crossing the threshold. We're crossing a threshold by going into the water. Through a baptism, through crossing the Red Sea, through crossing another kind of a sea, through crossing the river Styx, through crossing the clashing rocks that are in the ocean, going through the Red Sea. Did I say that one yet? All of those right there. Right there, they threw him into the ocean. Bingo, that's it right there. And a great fish swallowed up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And let's take that 3 right there. I got to show you how much this works. 3 appears 3 times in the book of Jonah. It could have appeared 5 times or 7 times or 10 times or 12 times, but 3 appear. It's so small. 3 appears exactly 3 times, though. We're going to get this cross-referencing non-stop. Okay, so going into that right there, that's belly of the whale right there in Joseph Campbell's template right there. What you are is crossing the threshold and going into the belly of the whale represents you've turned inward, gone into your mind, and you're where those memories are that you don't want to deal with. They have to be dealt with. And that's what this represents. You're going to have to go heal what hurts by it, looking at it, not by hating it. Hating it makes it bigger. Looking at it and resolving it makes it go away. So we need to do that healing, and we're in the belly of the whale. That's where we are to do that. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly. So from in this place right here, from in our mind, from in this location, we're going to re-engage with the higher awareness. That higher awareness is where we are devoid of, where we exist, but we exist outside of the memories and the emotions. We can get there. We wake up in the night and we can kind of hit that place when we've got that mental inner turmoil going on. We need to grab that voice that comes in that has peace and calm telling you to go to sleep. That's the higher awareness right there. But we can get there. That's just to point it out to people. What you need to do is practice getting there all the time when you're awake. That's what we need to do. We need to get to that spot when you don't feel good. You say, stop, get outside of the memory, step back over here where you don't feel the emotion of it. You have to get out of it though. You have to leave it behind. You can't dry off while standing in the rain. Okay, let's see. So that's what's happening here is that you're re-engaging with God. Okay, and I said, cried by reason of mine, affliction, out of the belly of hell. We have a whole healing going on, actually, and then it spits him out onto the land. The first video will cover this better. And the word of the Lord came into Jonah the second time, saying, go to Nineveh, the great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. Okay, so what's happened throughout the story is this. First of all, Jonah left the higher awareness behind, and what happened is Nineveh, our city, grew as a result that was not in good shape. Our city, our life was not okay. Our life experiences, our pile of judgments are that city right there. And life was a turmoil as a result. And what we had to do is cross a threshold, get thrown into the ocean, go into the belly of the whale where it's now time to heal. Then we go through and heal all of the things, forsaking the vanities and all that. Yeah, like in the other video is there. So that kind of sums everything up. We get down to here and word came again and said, go again. There's a second time. Go resolve Nineveh. So this time Jonah did. And now Nineveh was a big city, 3 days journey. See the 3 7th grid. And Jonah began to enter the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So 40 days it takes for Nineveh to be overthrown. How long does it take for the flood to happen? On the 7-3 grid. In 7 days, 40 nights. Well, there's something else that's going on there, but that 40 is there, that element. So the people of Nineveh, so what that represents, the 40 represents purity. So what this says, and Jonah began to enter the city a day's journey and cried, whatever time it takes, you have to overthrow the city. So they proclaimed a fast. So we're not going to consume anything, and put on sackcloth. Sackcloth is said 3 times, from the greatest of them to even the least of them. What that means, sackcloth being repeated 3 times, this is an analog. It doesn't mean sackcloth or rough or anything in the physical world. What that means, layer on spiritual purity. Put on purity. All right, what I can show you, it's consistent everywhere, but if I were to put sackcloth in here like I'm searching, you see it comes up 3 times. That means on this 7-3 grid, as I'm reading through, somebody in the background is saying, if you're unsure what this means, when you see sackcloth as an analog and you're trying to figure this out and you understand that it was repeated 3 times, then know this, it's a pure state. This means uncovered. That's how the grid works. You have to shift to what that 3 means. Sackcloth means 3, which means pure state. And it is a covering. It is being used as a covering. That's always spiritual covering, mental covering, fears, shame, doubts, sense of loss of self-worth, all those things. That's how we cover ourselves. Sackcloth means here, since it's repeated 3 times, cover yourself in purity. Get rid of the things, or stop thinking of the things. Get out of the rain, yeah. So the people of Nineveh, that means the hurt qualities that we have in beliefs. Let them go, believed in God, stopped believing, or stopped proclaiming a fast means getting away from what you were and putting on purity, getting away from it all, from the greatest of them to even the least of them. Yeah, everything that you have inside of you that is an issue has to be resolved this way. Let's see. And the king himself, whoever was in charge, rose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him and covered him with a sackcloth and sat in ashes. So that's your earlier, whoever was in charge in Nineveh when Jonah was asleep and not here and not in Nineveh. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles. Let neither man nor beast. Okay, so nobody eats. We're going into that fasting condition. Spiritual again, do not eat, do not drink water. Get away from all the habits, the things that you're doing. We habituate. We have to get away from what we're doing. You just do something different. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Their purity, man and beast, all of the beasts are going to be things that we have acting out of us. And cry mightily unto God, yea, let them turn every one from his evil ways and from the violence that is in their hands. That's us. Yeah, the evil ways, the evil thoughts, and the violence that is in their hands. The, busting down the drywall and screaming and yelling and that sort of stuff. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger that we perish not? And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil ways, and God repented of the evil that he had said he would do to them, and he did not. Okay, so what happened here is that the city repented, and so it was not destroyed. Unlike, if we think of the Sodom story, there was not a repentance. There was a destruction. And you know what? I do want to say, this is just for the record. You may or may not catch this at all. I catch it as a sequential thing in the material that is different than anywhere I've ever seen before. That really you have God calling right off the bat, God calling Jonah, and Jonah leaving, and then going into the sea, and then the whole thing gets bad and has to be destroyed. So usually, and God is asking him to go address the bad city. So the city was already bad to begin with. So it reads like a calling and a denial. Like if you were on Mount Horeb with Moses, watching him and God saying, it's you, and him saying, I don't even speak right, I can't do it, where you got this request and then this, I'm not the one to do it. You have an element like that in here where the person is called, but they don't go or they don't want to go. That would be a calling and a refusal of the call. But typically that first calling only happens After, there's a destruction. So we have a calling and then the destruction and then a second calling, which is just sequentially bizarre to me. Yeah, that destruction should have happened before the calling. It's a different style. What it is showing is that somewhere along the way you knew I should do this, but you didn't go. You just left it behind and for years went on again before it came back to you. That's how this one would read, which is different. Long ago, you were called to make this journey and you said, I'm just going to live life. And now you're going, okay, this time's different. I got to do it. That would be the only way this one interprets. Yeah. Okay. So far we've got the story. It's following a pattern up to this point. This is where it goes crazy though. Okay. Let's take a look at what happens next. So Jonah, this is your consciousness for some reason is angry. But what does angry mean? And he prayed to the Lord and said, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country? Okay, so what we have really in the beginning, he didn't say anything. Arise, go to Nineveh, but Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them into Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord sent out a great wind. So there was not a conversation. So what would that mean there? Isn't this what I was saying when I was in my country? But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry. Okay, let's isolate what happened here. This is us. We didn't want to go on a healing path. Life went bad. We went through a healing process. Then we went back and addressed ourselves again after learning what to do. However, everything within us resolved. Oh. Maybe Jonah's supposed to die. He says that. Would this be like die into your old self? Okay, to literally put that in the hierarchy and translate it into the most mentally interactive component, what this means is that the higher awareness can never do the healing on its own. It requires the consciousness. The consciousness drives everything. But the consciousness has to be aware and know what to do. It does things in the beginning without awareness. Now what we're doing is developing awareness and changing the way we're doing things. So what's happened here is that early self became corrupt, and the higher awareness is saying, you got to go resolve this, but we don't want to. So that just indicates we struggle to resolve our issues in life. We get into habits, and that's hard to leave behind. That's what this refusal to do things are. It's hard to address that stuff, or it's hard to leave it behind. It's hard to get out of the habits. It's so damn hard. There's a struggle to leave the past. That shows up in 10 plagues in Egypt as Moses is trying to leave Pharaoh before crossing the threshold of the Red Sea. Yeah, 10 plagues. There's a big struggle in some of these stories to leave the past. Sometimes it's not that big. Here, it's a short story. We get one little, didn't make it. We'll go next time. Okay, so what happens then is that we had all of these issues within ourselves that were not okay. We were unaware. The higher awareness says, hey, buddy, wake up, turn inward. You have to go address this stuff. I need you with your consciousness to go address this issue here. I can help you, but you have to be the one that goes and does it. In doing so, a healing takes place, and so the city is fine. But the consciousness is then angry as a result and goes outside to observe it from the outside. That's a struggle for me. I can't quite dial that in. Ask yourself, why would your consciousness, your Jonah self, be upset that a healing took place and that the higher awareness did not destroy what was there? Why would that upset us? Isn't that what we're after? We're after that inner peace. All right. To nutshell it, the conundrum I have right here is it seems like in the beginning, Jonah didn't want to go. He just went off, and for some reason, I don't know why that sequence happened. God told him to go resolve that. He didn't want to do it. However, after he was told to go there and he went through the land, somehow the people repented. And instead of destroying them, God said, okay, you're off the hook then. You resolved it. And that right there is what made Jonah mad. He was like, you know what? From the beginning, that's what I was going to do. What happened here? What was he doing in the beginning? He didn't do anything. He just let it go. Now he's telling God you know what? You're just letting it go. Isn't that what I said in the beginning? You know, the difference is, though, when God said to go there, there was a problem. So Jonah needed to go do it. Jonah just wanted to leave it alone. So he wanted to leave the problems in place. Now that the problems are not there, and Jonah's waking up, he's not a very grateful recipient of a good city, is he? He just got the keys to the city handed to him, and he's not happy about it. You know what? I want to make a comparison. Let's go look at, I'm going to switch over to the NRSV to see if we can read something a little easier through the verbiage here. But let's go make a comparison between Sodom. Was it Lot that went and looked? Let's go take a look. All right, I pulled it up, and my apologies. It wasn't Lot. It was Abraham. I get these mixed up sometimes. I probably do that a lot. I apologize if I do make any errors here. There's a lot of places to go sometimes. It gets confusing. It all bleeds together. Okay, we got Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, and here's what I don't know if this means anything. I just want to read through it. Boy, should I read the whole from 12 on maybe? Just down to 29. Yeah, okay. 12 to 29 is all. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? Son-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city. Bring them out of the place. Now what these are is the two men who went into the city, the two angels that the men wanted him to bring out so that we may know them. And he said, no, take my virgin daughters instead. But the men were like, yeah, we're in charge here. Get out. Get out. You don't get the daughters or us. Okay, let's see. Where are we? I'm sorry, I'm bouncing all over here. Okay, then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? So he's asking him, get all your family out, because we're going to destroy this place because of the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So here's the outcry against the story in Jonah, too. We've got this big thing going on. That's the conflict in the city. So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, get up and out of the house, for we're about to destroy. This is just extra stuff put in here. Get up and get out. When the morning dawned, they urged him to take his wife and two daughters, or else you'll be consumed. Get out of the city because we're going to destroy it. You get out of here. But he lingered, so the men seized him and his wife and his daughters by the hand, and the Lord being merciful. So there's a struggle. Hey, man, you're supposed to get out of here. Oh, I'm not really. He lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and two daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and left him outside the city. It's like, yeah, I know you're struggling to leave it behind. We're going to help you, you weakling. This represents the higher awareness helping us get away from this. But he lingered, so the men, they took him outside. When he had brought them outside, they said, flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills or else you will be consumed. When you leave the past behind, don't look back. Just go. Leave it and go. Cut ties. And Lot, you got kids and things like that. You have to make adjustments here. These are habits and things that are very hurtful to you. And Lot said to them, oh no, my lords. See how short that is? 18 and 19. I'll throw these in from time to time. Why are you breaking it up like that? This is Stephen Langton. He's telling us something. And Lot said to them, oh no, my lords, your servant has found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life, but I cannot flee to the hills for fear the disaster will overtake me and I die. Look, that a city is near enough to flee to, and it's a little one. Let me escape there. It is not a little one, and my life will be saved. Does that somehow represent, no, because Lot was in the city. He didn't go there. Yeah, that's a little different. I don't know. And he said, very well, I grant you this favor too, that I will not overthrow the city in which you have spoken. So he's just saying, we're just saying to ourselves, I want to go find some little quiet place over here to live while you destroy everything else. Hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. For the city was called Zoar. The sun had risen on the earth when the lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heavens. Okay, so now we're destroying that old city that did not repent. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. I want to make a comment about that one, and all that grew on the ground. The city is me, what emerges from my garden, what trees grow that don't produce. Everything that grows from this place has been destroyed. So the things that emerge from me, which are what? The fruits from my garden, anger, whatever. It can either be some sort of physical acting out, or it's also physical even if it isn't observable. It can become physical to you if you're experiencing it in your mind actively. You could be sitting by yourself quietly, but experiencing this incredible turmoil. Nobody would know it because you're putting on a show or something. That is still manifesting. It is coming into the physical. You're just not acting it out. But that is what emerges from our garden, and this is saying destroying all of that. Look how pretty that is. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. So this indicates the inner being, Lot's wife. You're leaving that behind. That's probably a good thing. We're needing to sequence this story. We need to create new iterations. The old self has to be left to die off to new self, men and women both. All right, this part. Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Okay, so Abraham never was in the city. With Jonah, he was in the city, but he left out. And he looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah and towards all the land of the plain and saw the smoke of the land going up like the smoke of the furnace. So Abram, who is the called consciousness in Abraham, the called consciousness in this story that is staying with the higher awareness as we're on our healing path, we're looking towards the destruction and saw it all going up. We were standing where our conscious was with the higher awareness, and we're just watching the destruction of our old self. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had settled. Oh, recombining there. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Abraham has gone to observe the destruction. All right, and if we look at Jonah, again, we see that Jonah wasn't in the city to begin with. He was asked to go there by God. He escaped. He didn't want to go, and life went bad. Well, I don't know why God would have asked us to go heal. Say, yeah, that's just an odd thing. So that was odd, but we get to the point where now Jonah did go to the city, do whatever he had to do. Everyone repented. Nineveh converted. That's it. Nineveh converted. They didn't say, up yours, you need to destroy us. They said, okay, we give in. Which is just a way that's a way of showing that you're healing your past. It doesn't matter. It's still destroyed, whether it gave in or not. The old self is destroyed, the new one is taken over. Play on words. But this was very displeasing to Jonah, and he became angry. So right here, it is weird because suddenly that means that the consciousness is not happy that you have healed. He prayed to the Lord and said, Isn't this, let's try to maybe dial these in a little bit. I'm going to go back and rework these verse by verse. These are the ones that need this kind of analysis right here. There is this kind of detail in here. It just takes time to extract it. So what I'm going to do here is start off with, I got Jonah NRSV, chapter 4, Jonah's anger. That's where we have, the conscious self is upset with the city's conversion. I should change that. The conscious self is upset with inner healing. That's what it really is. Not a city's conversion. That's still analogous. Yeah, the sinning converting is the inner self changing, healing. He prayed to the Lord and said, "O Lord, is this not what I said while I was in my own country? That is why I fled to Tarshish at the beginning." Tarshish was said 5 times. That should be a good thing. Why would he have fled to a good thing? But that is his own country then. It was bad. That was his country. Yeah, Nineveh was truthfully his country. Nineveh exists inside of him, inside of me, inside of us, whoever's on the journey. Nineveh is the inner self. So we were there in our own country. The inner self wanted us to go heal our own self. And we said, nope, we're just going to live life. That's why I fled to Tarshish at the beginning, for I knew you are gracious and merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from punishment. So this, boy, these need to be, what's going on here? So he prayed to the Lord and said, this is disconnected from our emotions. Isn't this what I said while I was still in my own country? What is he talking about? Nobody said anything. When God saw that what they did, how they turned from their evil ways, God changed his mind. Oh, and that he said that the calamity he would bring him on to them, he would not do it. Okay. That's what he's saying. Right here. Conscious connects with higher awareness. I wanted to let it go to begin with. Yeah, okay, that's making sense. I wanted to let it go to begin with. It was bad then. That is the old self. That's why I fled to Tarshish in the beginning, for I knew you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from punishment. This is weird. It is backwards, isn't it? What is the God of Abraham? I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. For I knew that you are gracious and merciful God, slow to anger. So that is the higher awareness then. Abounding in steadfast love and relenting from punishment. Yeah. I knew you were the higher awareness. Why? I don't know why he would have said I fled then. That's why I fled from you, because I wasn't the worthy one, I suppose, perhaps. And now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better than to die to live. Is this asking to kill the early self? And the Lord said, why are you angry? Why are we, the inner self, why are we angry? Then Jonah went out of the city and sat down east of the city, made a booth for himself there, sat under the shade, waiting to see if it would become of the city. So this is like creating that space. This is like in the Sodom story. Lot went to, had him protect the city. Here, let me go here first. They went from there later, but at first there was a protected place. It sounds like the same thing. Jonah went out of the city and sat down east of the city and made a booth for himself. That would be like Lot having God protect a small place for him. He was protected there, but he sat there in the shade waiting to see what would become of the city. So this is like sitting off someplace, just seeing what's going to happen to this change. And Jonah went out of the city and said, you know what, the east, where did we go from Eden? Eden was a good place, and we went east of Eden. East was a bad direction. When Jonah went out of the city, he sat down east of the city and made a booth for himself there. He sat in it in the shade, waiting to see what would become of the city. This sounds like bad self. I'm not sure. I don't want to do that. That's not right. Jonah is the a conscious element, but it might not. Jonah went out of the city and sat down. I don't know. Let's move on. See if it comes together. Got to keep working at it. Sometimes it grows in bits and pieces, going through it again and again, becoming familiar with it and seeking, and let your brain lock into stuff. Give it a day or two. Stuff comes to you. All right, the Lord God appointed a bush and made it come up over Jonah to give shade over his head, to save him from his discomfort. So Jonah was happy about the bush. But when God came the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the bush, so that it withered. When the sun rose, God prepared a sultry east wind, and the sun beat down on the head of Jonah, so that he was faint and asked that he might die. He said, "It's better for me to die than to live." He received comfort from above. Received comfort from above. What does that mean? Push. Yeah, I don't know. Received comfort. Let's just say received comfort. Trying to detail it limits it. But when dawn came up the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the bush so that it withered. Comfort left. When the sun rose, God prepared a sultry east wind, east of Eden, and the sun beat down on the head of the Jonah, so it found Jonah, better for I to live. Okay. Gets worse for Jonah. He wants to die. But God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the bush?" And he said, "Yes, angry enough to die." So he's angry enough that its comfort came and comfort went. Over the loss of comfort. The comfort was in watching the city. We kind of got away from the city here now, didn't we? Then the Lord said, "You're concerned about the bush, for which you did not labor and for which you did not grow. It came into being in a night and perished in a night." You are concerned over something over which you have no control. And should I not be concerned for Nineveh, that great city in which there are more than a ton of... And should I not be concerned? And should not be concerned about the inner self. That's really what Nineveh is, the collection of the inner memories. And shouldn't I be concerned about the inner self? In which there are many facets. Where is the inner self? It's in the mind. My Father's house. There are many mansions, facets, places. I will give you this land to all of you and your offspring, and they will become like stars of the sky or the sand of the beach. Yeah, this is us becoming that complicated. And should I not be concerned about Nineveh, that great city in which there are more than many facets who don't know what they're doing, and also many animals. Animals. I have to go to King James Version and look up animals. Jonah, King James Version. They're using cattle. Cattle. Animals not used. Cattle is only used one time. One is a good number. Should I be concerned between cannot discern their right and their left hand, and also much cattle? Cattle is one. Purity. Can't decide right or left. Balanced. Center. Cannot discern. Okay, so that's a good thing. You don't want to be able to discern. You can discern. You don't want to live that way. You don't want to live left, right, balanced, and also much cattle. Purity. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's try to. Whew. And should I not be concerned about Nineveh? Okay. In which there are many facets, are balanced and pure. Okay, if I do it that way, and I'm only doing that because I don't know what animals are. I look it up as cattle on the other one. It comes up one time. One is a good thing, so I'm going to call that pure. Just because I don't know what else to do with it. And and it fits the criteria of other stuff I'm doing. At the same time, verse 11 is not a good verse. 10 is a good thing. Those who are concerned about the bush fruit, yeah. Boy, everything is inverted. And it doesn't end up addressing what happens to Jonah. Let me read through here. The conscious self is upset with the inner healing. The conscious connects with the higher awareness and states, I wanted to let it go to begin with. I didn't want to do anything to start with. I think you're very slow to do anything. You don't do shit. That's just not true, is it? I will bless those who bless those and curse you. Those who curse you is what Jesus, or is what we're told about Abraham, the God of Abraham. So that's weird. Okay. And now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it's better for me to die than to live. That could be so is this asking to kill the early self? I don't want my early self. Yeah. Then we're awaiting the passage of time. We get comfort. It comes and goes. It gets worse for Jonah. He wants to die. Yes, I'm still mad enough to die over the loss of comfort. You are concerned over something over which you have no control. I am concerned over that. Shouldn't I also be concerned about the inner self in which there are many facets that are balanced and pure? Boy, it wraps up tighter, but it's still a little loose out there, isn't it? Try it again. The conscious self is upset that the inner healing took place. Honestly, it wouldn't be. We're going to feel good. We're going to feel emotionally okay. So something else is going on. Jonah. Who is Jonah? Jonah is the person on the path. Jonah is the consciousness. Conscious self is upset with the inner healing. But does Jonah need to die off and become something different? Conscious self is upset with inner healing. It connects to the higher awareness and says, hey, I didn't want to do anything to start with. That's why I didn't go do anything. That's why I let it go. Life went bad, I realized, but you're gracious and merciful, slow to anger, got love, relenting from punishment. You don't do anything. Well, if it's the higher awareness, true. But if it's, yeah, that's true. That is true. But it doesn't work that way. Life does not work that way. You can see the turmoil was there. Nope, there was problems going on. So this is inverted somehow. It's like it's written from the perspective of the old self, that Jonah is the old self that needs to die off. It's third person. It's third person, but Jonah's writer is telling the story. Yeah, okay. Is this asking to kill the early self? I await the passage of time. Comfort comes and goes. gets worse. Time goes by. I want to die. Enough to die over the loss of comfort. Yeah, I'm so concerned. I'm concerned over things over which I have no control, but I should be concerned about the inner self in which there are many facets that are balanced and pure. Okay. Yeah. Don't be concerned over the things in which you have no control. Be concerned about yourself and the inner self and the balance. That cracks me up. All right, there's a couple of things we see in there, like when the king sat on the ash heap. That's a Job thing too. When Job had his sores and his scabs and all that stuff, and he's scratching himself on the ash heap with the potsherds. We also see the element of the call and the refusal to call, go, no, I don't want to. Although he went so far as to take off in life, and life became a storm. And then finally, he went through a purging process, a healing, crossing a threshold. He emerged a new person, went back, rectified Nineveh. It's kind of strange. It's different than others. But through the end there, what happens then ultimately is we get through. What I ultimately see now is that on the other side, we've created this place where we're going to go sit. We've got to rectify the world, but we need a small place we can be. It got too big. It was too much. We need a small, safe place we can be. We're starting over. You got to simplify. There's too much going on in life. Fastest to the world. Okay, so we're looking for that, and we're waiting to see what happens. And what we learn very quickly is pleasures come and go, and there's nothing you can do about it, or things come and go. Life comes and goes, and there's nothing you can do about it. Getting caught up in the wave of it is just an emotional roller coaster ride. Don't focus on the ride of life. Focus on the self, the purity, the balance. That's it. The story finished. What happens in the story of Job? All that stuff happens. He's got no control over it, loses everything. There's that kind of stuff going on. Honestly, if I was to compare this to the material that I'm aware of right now, I don't know why, but somehow I see things in here that are like vestiges of Job, despite the fact that it's such a different story. But that's something that happens through an analogous interpretation process of the concepts, of the mental concepts that are in the material. And that's a learned process, a self-learned process. We see the same thing in the Jesus story. It's in all four Gospels, but they vary slightly. But basically, yeah, he goes to the ship, and there's one where he's sleeping away. Storm's there. All the stuff's happening. They got to come and wake him up to calm things down. So it finishes a little differently. He doesn't have to go rectify the city, but he goes and rectifies the man of the tombs. He's rectifying a part of self that is full of issues. So the stories are going to demonstrate elements from other places. They're sharing conceptual ideas on a single template. I've never seen one like it. All right, well, what else do we have going on here? I'm glad I did that. I'm glad you talked me into doing that. Or, well, you didn't. I just thought I probably should. It was too weird to leave it like that. And also, as you go through, you can kind of see the process that I go through to work these through, because, that's what I do. It's all analytical. It really is. This is how the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. You just watched me make this my eternal Tao. All right, and then there was the comment about the sackcloth, like the camel hair of John the Baptist, is rough stuff rubbing you raw within hours. And dousing yourself in ashes is hardcore. Once you remember how soap was made. Adding a dry fast onto that, all you can do is sit and stew in misery. Since if you work sin, you actually worsen your conditions. Okay. I don't think I want to spend a lot of time on this one. It's going to take more research. This numbering system that I'm finding is what is revealing what is there. The clothing changes throughout Abrahamic material. It starts out with Adam and Eve naked, unashamed. What's the first covering is some kind of loincloth or apron or something like that from Eden. As after first sin, it's time to leave. That represents us covering ourselves with something. Naked was the preferred state. Covering was not. When we get as early as Noah, he's naked on the other side of the flood after he drinks some wine from his garden. He's feeling good. He's got a new garden, a new life. It's his new city. They're using a garden. From his new world, the garden that he grows his wine from is his new life experience. He's now uncovered and feeling good, but he gets covered up again. Naked was a good thing. It's said enough times in Genesis that you realize naked and nakedness are both terms that are from that pool of positive things to be. It means uncovered, spiritually uncovered. However, as Genesis goes on and as time goes on, they can't keep making men naked after some sort of a purging. It looks bad. Well, how come all these guys are getting naked? So they quickly do away with that, and what you see is something different. There's sackcloth, there's different kind of robes, there's linen robes, satin, cotton, different things like that. In order to know what they are, as you see people changing things or having pure white robes or things like that, they all represent covering. The Gospel of Thomas, when will we get our field back? When you can disrobe and stand on your clothes and put them under your feet like little children. Yeah, early on, you take your covering off, and you put them under your feet again. Clothing always represents a covering of some sort. John the Baptist was his covering. John represented the old self in the same way that Pharaoh did. It's just not meant to be a bad guy. In Genesis 1, or in Genesis, the first time, it's not Genesis 1, it's Genesis 12. The first time, though, that they go to Egypt and Pharaoh is there, Pharaoh's a good guy. Pharaoh's the one, they lie to Pharaoh. He marries Sarai. He's happy. They get slaves and animals in return. But when he finds out that they lied to him, he gets mad and gives her back and tells him, get out of here, and tells everybody, let them go, let them get out of here. Okay, well, that represents something different than a physical story. It would be a horrific thing, honestly. Then later, what happens with Moses and Pharaoh? Pharaoh's a bad guy. The person can be, the person represents the past self before moving on to an enlightened path. John the Baptist, Pharaoh, Lot, all of them are representing something that needs to be left in the past, and they're iterations of us as we go along. So I just wanted to say that about the garments. But if you know what if you know what the numbering system is, and you have this downloaded, you just look. Oh, what is white linen? Here, let me find an example. All right, I've got Exodus up King James Version. For doing this number searching, I only use the King James Version anymore. I no longer use NRSV modified or anything like that. There's too many subtle variations in downstream material. So I just do word searching from here. Okay, I already know right off the bat what's going on and that it is going to be intense. People have no idea how big it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and surprise you here. I'm going to go ahead and just put in something here. I don't know what there is. What we're talking about, robe or something? Okay, robe is said 9 times in here, which would mean robe is not necessarily a good thing. What I want to do is find some examples of other garments in here. Okay, wait a minute. What was that? And these are the garments which they make a breastplate, an ephod, robe, broidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle. Okay, let's take a look at these. What is a breastplate? "23 times. A breastplate's a good thing because it appears as a 20 and a 3 both together from our list. What else was there? An ephod. "31 times. 31 would make it a bad thing because it's 1 over 30. All right, coat is a good thing. A fine linen. Oh yeah, look at that. Coat of fine linen. What about linen? 36. Oh, fine linen. 13 times. Fine linen is not a good thing to be covered in. That's how you can find out how they're doing this. Coat. I'll embroider a coat. 7. That's fine. Coat of fine linen. Yeah. So you have to work through it. There's a lot more to what we see in here. All right. I kept playing around and found this later, and I'm editing it in. Fine twined linen. That's what we're looking for. That comes up 20 times. That's what we want to be covered in, the fine twined linen. That would be like being naked. I'm uncovered. This is the purity that I want. Crown. I see there's a crown in there. Crown should be good. Yeah, 12. We got number 12 there. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest, I don't know if that means anything to you or not. The numbering system is so intense in here, I can't even describe it. If you can't see it, it just sounds like some Greek thing or some dude that's, I don't know, somebody's like, numerology, dude, it's evil. This is counting. It's counting. This is accessible to kids long ago that had this memorized, and it's simple, but we're not doing it right. We don't have it memorized. We don't know the depth of it. We don't spend time with it. Anyway, okay. Well, I just wanted to show that in the video. And yeah, getting through Jonah, that's fun. You got problems, cycles in life. When you get them resolved, you know what? Don't worry about the stuff you have no control over. Focus on yourself. There it is. Jonah. See you in the next video.